Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our weekly Bhagavad Gita discussion. And we, as you all are aware, we pick up a topic and then we discuss based on the topic various concepts that are explained as part of Bhagavad Gita. And also the most important part is how do we understand it? How do we apply it in our own life? How do we make it more practical so that we can benefit from the knowledge? So we'll continue with our discussion. So chapter 13 we are looking at some verses from chapter 13 in the last couple of sessions. So we'll continue doing that. So this time also we picked up a few set of verses from 13th chapter. And the topic for today's discussion, as you all would have seen, is the object of knowledge in Bhakti. Krishna says this in the 18th verse of 13th chapter. Jnanam Geyam Jnanagamyam. And we'll look at who all these are and what is their relevance and what is their practical application for us of knowing this. So object of knowledge in Bhakti, that's the topic for today's discussion. So this whole piece of 13th chapter, as you are aware that up to 12th chapter, the first 6 chapter led Arjuna the discussion flow from karma to bhakti. That started with action or inaction. What should I do? That pruchhami tvam dharma samudha cheta. That is how this conversation kind of started. When Arjuna ने ये प्रश्न किया था कि मेरा धर्म क्या है? What should I do? Should I act like a kshatriya or should I act like a Kurunandan? As a Kurunandan, I'm the most champion warrior on this battlefield. So instead of killing my weaker brothers, I should protect them. That is my duty as a elder in a kula, as an elder in a family. However, the same brothers and relatives are standing in my opposite army and they are fighting me against the dharma. The dharma is on our side. Krishna is on our side. So, and as a duty of a kshatriya, I should kill anybody who comes in front of me and challenge me for war. And this is a great challenge that everyone has posed before me. So what should I do? So that was the trigger which started the conversation of Bhagavad Gita between Arjuna and Krishna, and then that led from duty or karma to bhakti. And it concluded with the verse of 6th chapter, 47th verse, where Krishna says that yogi nam api sarvesham, amongst all the yogis, mad gaten antaratmana, the one who is best situated in me is श्रद्धावान भजते योमाम, जो श्रद्धा से मेरा भजन करता है. ये मेरा मत है. समय युक्तो तममतः. So Krishna sometimes gives his, many times he in Bhagavad Gita he mentions that this is my opinion, but we understand that he does not have to give his opinion. His opinions are the Brahma Vakya, are the that is dharma. That is to be done. Whatever he says, Krishna's will is ultimate will, and our will is subordinate to his will. So his opinion is final verdict. There's no opinion beyond his opinion, and everybody simply should follow his opinion. So Same yukto tamamataha. He says this because he gives us this independence, minute independence, which we have misused grossly, and that's why we all landed up in this world. But so Krishna says श्रद्धावान भजते योमाम, जो श्रद्धा से मेरा भजन करते हैं, जो भक्ति पूर्वक मेरा भजन करते हैं. श्रद्धा is faith. With faith, those who worship me, and that those people, those yogis, and he called them as yogis. We call ourselves bhakti yogis. Those yogis are the best amongst all yogis. And then the 9th chapter to 12th chapter, we briefly, Krishna elaborately explains about his personal nature. Now, Shraddhavana bhajate yo mam. He said, जो मेरा भजन करते हैं. It's not that कोई भी भजन करते हैं. 33 कोटि देवता है और किसी का भी भजन करते हैं. कितने सारे गुरु आते जाते हैं, उनका किसी का भी भजन कर लेते हैं. ऐसा नहीं. He says, Shraddhavana bhajate yo mam. There is very direct personal experience. There is direct personal reference brought in by Krishna in this verse. And the 7th verse starts with Maya Sakta Manapartha, which is again a very direct instruction to Arjuna to get attached to him, getting your mind attached to me. And then that flow continues till the 12th chapter, where he concludes that which devotees are dear to me. There are all devotees, but who is more dear to me? If you want to become dear to me, what should you do? And that concludes by the end of the 12th chapter, and the 13th chapter begins completely on a different note. It starts with Arjuna asking 6 questions, and which seems very unrelated with what was discussed in the previous chapter. So in the flow of discussion, having concluded what Krishna wanted to discuss about bhakti, Arjuna picks up a subtopic, because there were some concepts which were prevalent, and Arjuna wanted more clarification on those concepts. And this progression from 13th chapter till 18th chapter is called journey of conversation is from Jnana to Bhakti. So it starts with Jnana. Jnana is often interchangeably used as a Sankhya. So Sankhya and Jnana are ways in which we deep dive into an object and we analyze that object. Now this scene per se looks very nice. There's beautiful blue sky, some clouds, mountain, lake, and there are in all it creates it's nice visual. Similarly, however, each of these components in their entirety, in their individuality, now this picture as such can look attractive. And however, when we try to pick up one element, for example water, we put that into a glass of water, and then transparent glass of water, if that is kept in front of me, I may not, now it could be the same water from the same lake that is visible in this picture, but it may not be captivating for me. It may not be captive, but the water, when I see it in this form, now that there I may say, oh, it looks very beautiful. So it looks to be a very beautiful picture. But when the same water is put in front of me in a small glass or in a small bowl, the water is same, but it does not captivate my attention the way it's captivating it now. Now that is called Sankhya. When we Sankhya, what we do, we analyze elements in their individuality, so that we lose their attraction. We lose their attraction, and then we go beyond matter. Now, end of the day, whichever picture that you may see, this is all matter. These are all manifestation of Panchamahabhutas, that are Krishna's energy, and in different form and shape. Even if it manifests, it will still remain matter. It's still temporary. It's still not conscious, and it's still not spirit. It's not part of spirit. And then hence, if we remain attached to this, if we remain attached to the forms, then we will struggle to go beyond form. Beyond form means beyond the matter, beyond matter towards spirit, to develop our attraction and attachment towards spirit. For that to happen, the analysis of matter can lead to detachment from matter, because when we analyze it more and more, when we may start finding it to be unattractive beyond a point. So for example, a beautiful human body could be that of a Miss Universe, but when she dies and her body is taken up for postmortem, or for example for some surgery, when her different body parts are pulled out, they are the same part of the same body of the same person who the whole world found to be beautiful, but when you analyze it, you realize this is nothing but chemicals. There are then, and each of those components, each of blood can be dissected into various chemicals. Skin can be done that way. Hairs can have some other chemicals. Nails can have some other chemicals. Eyes can have some other combination of chemicals, and each of those elements can be bifurcated. The bones will have some other chemicals in it. So all the beautiful body of a Miss World or a Miss Universe can just become a bag of chemical weighing to some kg, some small kg, and a lot of it will be water anyway, and all that will not have much of value. We say it's 210, it's 240, 240. All those chemicals you can buy in from market in the same quantity as they exist in the human body. But when the same body was functional, same body was moving, it attracted attention of the whole world. And but the same body, when you analyze deeply, it loses attraction. Nobody will get attracted to the sulfate or the calcium that is present in the body of the same Miss Universe. So this is the objective of jnana to bhakti. The jnanis, they like analysis. They like to analyze, and they like to dissects every components into its elements, smaller and smaller and smaller elements, and eventually they lose interest in those elements, and then they go beyond those elements. So that is that is one way of going to the absolute truth, approaching absolute truth. Because unless you lose interest in matter, you will not develop interest in the absolute truth or the Param Bhagwan. Now, all Gyanis may not have Bhagwan conception for them. All Gyanis can have Brahman conception. They could be Brahmavadis or they could be Mayavadis, where they will say that I will become God, or Brahmavadi that I want to go and merge in the effulgence of the Lord. And or they could be devotees if they come under the proper guidance, if they get introduced to devotional contents. So this is this section of Bhagavad Gita, where we will be discussing about where the beginning of this section starts with 6 questions coming from Arjuna. He asked Krishna to clarify these concepts. Now we have seen some of these, so we will quickly revise this thing so that this can help us build on the today's discussion. So Arjuna asked Krishna to clarify what is Prakriti, who's Purusha, what is Kshetra, Kshetrajna, knowledge, and object of knowledge. So the Prakriti, Krishna, Purusha, and Kshetra, Krishna immediately answers in the second verse itself. The soul, super soul, are the Purushas, the enjoyers, and Kshetra is the field of activity, which is body and the material world, basically. Then Prakriti, Krishna picks up for discussion, and Prakriti is material world acting under the control of 3 gunas, or the modes of material nature, given for a given body of a living entity, for a given body of a living entity. And if for every body, the gunas will act differently. For a body of a dog, they will apply differently. For a body of a human, they will apply differently. But everyone is under the control of these 3 gunas. And Prakriti, that is the knowledge. Krishna explains a list of 20 qualities, which Krishna called them as knowledge. We will quickly take a look at that before we jump to today's discussion. And but the knowledge in nutshell is what will help us attain liberation, not that will keep us entangled in the world. And the object of knowledge that we will discuss today from 13.13 onwards. Before that, we'll look at this important verse wherein the Krishna is so while explaining Purusha is the enjoyer, and Krishna says that as far as the body is concerned, there are 2 Purushas. One is the knower of the kshetra, knower of the body, that is soul. And then he says something very significant here, that he says that you should also understand that I am also the knower of all bodies, because I am also present in all bodies. So as far as purushas are concerned, the kshetra is concerned, the body of a human being or a body of a living entity is a kshetra, and soul is kshetrajna, or the knower of the field, and he is also referred to as the purusha. And Krishna as a super soul who also is present in the body is also considered to be the knower, because he not only knows this body, he knows everybody. He is present in every living entity's body. But soul, who is a very minute separated particle of Krishna, is present in current body, and he will have awareness of current body only, while Krishna, who is present in current body as well as in all other bodies, will have awareness of this body as well as all other bodies. So this is a differentiation Krishna brings in the third verse, and we will give a reference to that again later in the today's discussion. Then Krishna discuss. We'll quickly take a look at a few qualities, and one quality especially about the non-entanglement with wife, children, etc. What does that mean? Affection is natural but renounced if relationships are not favorable for spiritual advancement. So we'll try and take a look at that aspect a little bit more. So these 20 qualities we had looked at. Out of that, attachment and affection is what we will again we will have a brief discussion before moving forward, so that we just want to make sure that we have covered that correctly. So affection is a natural emotion that every living entity will experience, and in relationship it is in fact necessary for us to have affection. So if a mother has certain duties towards her child, however, if she will lack affection, then she will, whatever she will do will be very dry, will not be very helpful in nourishing that particular relationship. This is the most beautiful relationship between the mother and a child, and if that relationship will become completely incomplete, it will remain incomplete, it will be non-fulfilling for both if it lacks emotions. So emotions are so much very necessary for every relationship. However, so Prabhupada, there was a so the way we look at human beings or the living entities, there is a body, there is mind, and there is a soul. Now all three are present as far as a living entity is concerned. All of us are living entities, so we all have body, we all have a mind of its own, and mind I'm using in as a subtle body combination of all, say, mind, intelligence, and false ego. I'm just referring to it as mind. And there is spirit soul, there is spirit soul. So all the three aspect of me are important. And I, as even in devotion, even if when we take up a particular spiritual path, care has to be taken for all the three components. It can't be, because it's a spiritual, it's a path for development of spiritual consciousness, it's Krishna consciousness movement, uh, where body and mind can be treated as not required or not to be cared for. And that can be a big mistake if anybody does like this, because we come as a composite or a wholesome unit. We don't only bring our soul to the temple, we also bring our body, we also bring our mind. Our mind has all desires, our mind has all emotions, our mind has all uh, our mind is taking input from various sources, it's developing different emotions. So we come to, when we visit temple, we go there as a complete unit. We just don't say that soul is supposed to have a relationship with Krishna, so my soul has visited temple while my body was at home. Now we don't do that. So Prabhupada was also very careful in his dealings with his disciples. So even though his uh, objective was to ensure that they all develop their spiritual consciousness, he was extremely careful about for while taking care of them, he used to take care of them as a wholesome unit. So there was a famous incident that happened when during Prabhupada Vyas Puja in Mayapur. So he saw one of his disciple was limping, and while the Vyas Puja glorification of Prabhupada was going on, and everybody was singing Aarti, Shri Guru Charana Padma, they were offering puja to him, they were offering flowers to him, they were offering bhoga to him. All that while it was going on, he called up that devotee, that particular devotee whom he saw found to be limping, and then he asked him what happened, and then he said something happened to him because of which his leg hurt, and then he explained him some homemade medicine that he can make, and kuch lep वनस्पति का लेप लगा के, can take some plant, use some plant to make some lep or paste, which if you can apply, that will get cured faster. And he gave that instruction. Now he didn't say that the problem has at the level of body. So I'm concerned with my soul of my disciple. No, he didn't say that. Because the disciple is a complete package. It's complete package. It's body, mind, and soul all together. You can't just try and take care of one while ignoring the other two. That's true for us also. When we interact with devotees, we interact with them at all three levels. While our focus can be on development of spiritual consciousness, we cannot ignore their body. If their health is not good, if they develop some problems with their health, they can't be, then that also need to be taken care of. You need to also inquire about the same. If they are facing challenges in their minds, if they are having bad desires, if they are having mental health issues, those also need to be tackled, because unless these things are fixed, he cannot divert his attention to spiritual aspects. He cannot come to Krishna and concentrate on Krishna. That can be extremely difficult for him to do, and hence affection is required, but attachment is not required. Now attachment is opposite of detachment. Attachment is excessive emotional entanglement while performing one's duty, which can actually hamper performance of duties. And we've seen an example of Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra is a symptom of is an example of attachment, where he was so attached to Duryodhan that he knew he was doing wrong, and he saw him taking all kind of wrong decisions, but he couldn't stop him from he couldn't do his duty as a king or as a father to stop Duryodhana from indulging in wrong practices. Going further, he in fact assisted by at times remaining quiet, or by at times participating in those wrongdoings. So and all that was done not to make sure that Duryodhan doesn't become upset with him. And that's too much price that Dhritarashtra paid for keeping Duryodhana happy. And that is attachment. That's what happens when you're attached to a person. You make yourself so much subordinate to the other person that that relationship becomes completely unhealthy. In that relationship, you will not be in a position to do your duty. Now, his duty as a king was to stop war if possible. His duty as a father was to give right directions to his son, and he failed in performing both these duties. So that's what attachment is. Then Krishna says that we had a little bit of discussion about this in the previous session as well. When Krishna says that spirituality, this is what these 20 items which he had listed are only the knowledge, and everything else is ignorance. Now, what does really he mean? Is everything else useless completely? It's not to be pursued at all, or how do we understand that? Now, what Krishna is talking about here is he's not explaining varnashram here. Varnashram is where there are varnas and there are ashramas. And according to the varna and ashrama, there are duties to be performed, various tasks to be done. So Krishna is not referring to that aspect. Krishna is referring to spiritual knowledge, attaining spiritual progress and making spiritual progress and attaining liberation. Now, in order for anybody to progress in this direction, these 20 qualities which we saw in table are the only required thing. And it starts with amanina. Amanina is one is not desirous of getting getting man or getting respect, or and one is able, one is willing to give all respect to others. So amanina, and so that all starts with that, and we talked about host of qualities, about 20 qualities, and those are necessary for developing spiritual consciousness and ultimately attaining love for Krishna, attaining liberation. Now now obviously the it doesn't mean that other qualities which are required for our day-to-day living life are completely unimportant. Now, those the Varnashram in the history uh, ensure that the skills and talents, arts are passed on from one generation to another generation through training. The like Kshatriyas will train junior Kshatriyas, Brahmanas will train their children to making performing different sacrifices and teaching of different vidyas. Now the Vaishyas will engage their children in the activity so that they become Vaishyas when they grow up. So like that, and there are the music, there was music, there was singing, there was the sculpture, the construction, temple construction which was going on, the beautiful construct temples were getting constructed. And so and all of that indicated that there were the art was properly practiced and not only practiced but was also passed on to from one generation to another generation in a succession. So they were not neglected, but they were not given all focus. The focus was on development of spiritual consciousness and attaining liberation, which is the goal of life. None of those skills other than 20 skills which Krishna listed will help us attain liberation if we only remain at that level. So that was the point that Krishna made. With this, we'll come to the 13th verse of which we'll start today's discussion. The 13th verse is where Krishna is making a shift in the discussion. So where Krishna is now saying that I shall now explain the knowable, the knowing which you will taste the eternal Brahman, the spirit, the beginningless, the spirit, the beginningless, and the subordinate to me. Brahman is subordinate to me. Brahman is the spirit, Brahman is beginningless, and Brahman is also subordinate to him. That's what Krishna has confirmed here. Lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. This Brahman is, or the spiritual sky, spiritual world is beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Very beautiful verse. All these verses from now are very beautiful, easy to chant. Geyam, Geyam Yattat Pravakshami. Pravakshami is what I shall now explain. Yad Jatvam Amrutam Ashnute, which will give you Amrutam. Amrutam is liberation or eternal life. Amruta is not the Amruta which was manifested during Samudra Manthan Leela between Deva and Asuras, but this is Amruta. He's used the similar word in the Amrutam in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita as well, and with the same reference that it means the eternity of life. Amrutam Ashnute, Yadgyatvam Amrutam Ashnute. Anadi. Anadi is eternal. Anadi mat param brahma. Mat param brahma. That Brahman is mine. So I'm superior to Brahman. Anadi, which is beginningless. Mat param, subordinate to me. Brahman, the spirit. Na na sat tat na na sat tat na saduchute. That is beyond the Sat, and Asat is translated by Sri Prabhupada here as cause and effect of this material world, beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So Brahman is talking about Brahman, and which is beginningless, subordinate to Krishna, and beyond the cause of become beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Now in the in the in the purport, Prabhupada explains that now Krishna begins to explain the knowledge first, and first the soul and then the super soul. Now this soul, the object of knowledge, Krishna will establish as super soul. And later he will explain that super soul is him. The famous verse is Sarvasya Chaham Rudhi Sandhi Vishtu Matah Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. The same, he will now say that this is the super soul is situated in the region of heart. And later in the 15th verse, 15th chapter, 15th verse, Krishna explains that that is me. I am that super soul. I am that super soul situated in hearts of every living entity. Then Supreme Lord as the super soul is also stated in the Vedic literature. Shvetaswara, Shveta, Swatara, Shveta Shvatara Upadishada 6.16. Prabhupada quoting this word, Pradhana Kshetrajna Patir Gunesha. Patir Gunesha, the chief knower of the body and the master of all three modes of material nature. So for knowledge, um, we have three primary sources, and this is a rough estimate, rough explanation of how we attain knowledge, how we obtain knowledge. We uh, as when we wish to gain knowledge, we start looking outwards, and outwards we see material world which we can feel, touch and measure. And that is then whatever knowledge that we gain, the scientific knowledge, the knowledge of law of physics, the and the chemical chemistry, the biology, that whatever we study and related other knowledge which comes as a part of that, that comes primarily from pratyaksha pramana, because this material world can be seen, can be perceived, can be felt, can be touched, can be measured. And this is so accurate. The world the world around us work in such an accurate way that these are repeatedly this can be forecasted, this can be repeated, they can be observed in a repeated manner. And that's why they kind of become a complete law. The material world becomes there is a it is referred to as the completeness of causation, because everything happening in the material world can be explained by some natural law and whatever. And so to that extent material world does not, we don't see intervention of divine in the functioning of material world. Law of gravity almost uh, all the time we have seen the law of gravity functioning. But Krishna, when he appears, he break the law of gravity. Now that is not which is observable to the today's world. So therefore everything knowledge is predominantly uh, taken in by way of pratyaksha pramana. The look inwards is another way of acquiring knowledge, where we infer, because looking inside us, things are not very clear. When we look inside us, we predominantly see our mind, we rarely see our soul. And in our mind there are various desires, there are unfulfilled desires, there are various anarthas from because of either fulfilled desires or unfulfilled desires. There could be anger, there could be hatred, there could be a lust, there could be attachment, and there could be uh, all those other emotions that comes up when either a desire get fulfilled or if a desire doesn't get fulfilled. And when we see somebody else getting enjoying the same desire that what we desired for. Now look inwards, when we look inwards we predominantly see our mind. And there again the things are not, things are subtle, things are not measurable. We can't measure things, we can't measure emotions, we can't measure how much love we feel for our parent. There's no lovometer. We can't we can't we cannot measure the pain. We just feel the pain, and then doctor has to ask the patient, do you feel pain here? He cannot put a thermometer and say that this patient is suffering from so and so degree of pain. There is no painometer. So everything is on anuman. Anuman is inference, estimation. And then third way of acquiring knowledge is look upwards, Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana is where knowledge predominantly is coming through revelations by Lord or his pure devotees. Those revelations can come through revelations from heart within, or through it can come through scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and which can be explained by Lord to Arjuna and pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada to all of us. Next verse. Now Krishna is explaining the nature of this object of knowledge, that you Krishna has explained him what is knowledge. But what is knowledge? But what do you do with that knowledge? You need to seek object of knowledge. It's like a doctor has knowledge. Now with this knowledge, he what will he do? He can analyze. He is a pathologist, for example, so he understand the different components of a blood. Now he has knowledge. Now he need an object of knowledge. What he has to then do is, when he gets a patient, he take his blood sample and then he perform analysis, and the patient becomes object of knowledge. Now by analyzing, he will come to know various things about that patient, that his sugar level is so and so, his hemoglobin is so and so, his platelets are so and so, his lipid profile is so and his blood group is and so on and so forth. So various other 100 things that he can then analyze once he gets an object of knowledge. So it's very important for us also to understand. Now we have knowledge, we have amanina, amanitvam, we have all those knowledge, for example, if we have cultivated. But then what do we do further? We need an object of knowledge so that we can apply this knowledge. Like just like a pathologist has got a knowledge of pathology, of analyzing blood into different components, but he need an object of knowledge to perform, to actually apply this knowledge and come to some conclusions that so and so person is healthy, so and so person has so and so problem. So he needs an object of knowledge. Similarly, we also need an object of knowledge to apply our knowledge. Krishna is explaining in this section who that object of knowledge is and what are his characteristics. So one of the characteristic is all pervading, and later we will see his omniscience. So Krishna is omnipresent and omnipotent and omniscient. He knows everything, he is present everywhere, and he can do everything, anything. These are three features of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So सर्वतः प्रणिपादम तत् सर्वतो क्षिरो मुखम. सर्वतः प्रणिपादम tam. सर्वतः प्रणिपादम tam. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes. Sarvato shrutimam loke, his ears are everywhere. So his hands are everywhere, legs are everywhere, eyes, heads, and faces are everywhere, and he has his ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. Now, this is the super soul. Prabhupada is explaining here that Krishna will explain this in one of the later verse, but Prabhupada is bringing this understanding, making it very clear right in this verse itself, though it is not explicitly stated by Krishna, that super soul exists, pervading everything. Now this is the characteristics of that super soul. Now this is not, now the super soul, how do we understand that? Because super soul enters as a Vishnu, Mahavishnu, all the lying in the Karna ocean, Mahavishnu, he breathes out. When he breathes out from his pore of his body, multiple universes comes out. Each universe is like a under or a bubble, or which is a round in shape. And then he enters each of those universe as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And again, he is available there. And then he creates, the Brahmaji appears and Brahmaji begins the creation for that particular universe. And our Brahmaji is four-headed Brahmaji. And when he started his creation, the process of creation, Brahma is given knowledge of Vedas, and Brahma starts with the creation. And then each of those progenies, each of those bodies are manifested, who were unmanifested earlier. When the annihilation took place, the same bodies got entered into the body of Mahavishnu. Now the same bodies are comes out in the same state, and they begin from where they left off. And Vishnu again has to enter into each of those living entities, so that he can become sakshi, he can become witness to everything that is happening inside that body. So Vishnu is there in the universe, and Vishnu is there in the heart of every living entity as well. So he's everywhere. In one sense, he's everywhere. He's inside every living entity, he's inside the universe, and he's outside the universe as well. So that is his inconceivable nature. The nature is inconceivable. So Prabhupada gives the famous verse that Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. How Prabhupada says that if anyone offers him a flower, a fruit, or little water, he accepts it because he is available. For his devotees, those who have faith in him, he is available everywhere. He is available in temple as a deity. He is available as prasad. He is available. You can see him as in any element of nature that you find attractive. If you find the picture which I showed earlier was attractive, that is possible because it's Krishna's energy. It's connected with Krishna. It's manifested out of Krishna's energy. Therefore, everything attractive that we find in this world is a manifestation of Krishna. And hence, those who have faith in Krishna, they will see Krishna everywhere. And those who don't have faith in Krishna, they will not see Krishna anywhere. So Krishna is near as possible to our soul, as he's the closest to the soul because he's there present in our heart as a super soul also, and he's present outside our body as well, and for the believer, but for the non-believer he doesn't exist anywhere. So Krishna is situated in his own abode, far away from the earth. Then he can still extend his hand and accept whatever one offers. That is his potency. So in the Brahma Samhita also 5.37 it is stated, Goloka eva nivasate akhilatma bhutaha akhilatma bhutaha. Although he is always engaged in pastimes in his transcendental planet Goloka, he is all pervading, is available everywhere. The individual's soul cannot claim that he is all pervading. Therefore this verse describes the supreme soul, the personality of Godhead, not the individual soul. So Prabhupada is bringing the distinction that nobody should by mistake think that the spirit soul, which is also who is also Sachit Ananda in nature, that who is eternal, who is full of bliss, full of knowledge, but that soul has limited jurisdiction of authority. He is, but the super soul which exists right next to him has all pervading authority, has complete authority. So this distinction Prabhupada wants to bring in. Nobody should think that just because they are spiritual, just because they are soul, they can become super soul also, they can become supreme soul also, they can become supreme personality of Godhead also. Krishna has clearly written here that he cannot, because his jurisdiction is limited to his own body, whereas Krishna says my jurisdiction is unlimited. I can have jurisdiction on all the bodies of all the living entities. Now more about that person, more about that absolute truth, who is going to be the object of our knowledge, whom on whom we will apply our knowledge, whom we will seek our attraction, whom we will try and develop our attraction towards, who will direct our consciousness towards him. So that object of knowledge, how is he? He is Sarvendriya Gunabhasam, Sarvendriya Vivarjitam, Asaktam Sarva Bhuru Chaiva Nirgunam Guna Bhroktucha. How is he? He is Sarvendriya Gunabhasam. Guna Sarvendriya Sarva Indriya Guna Abhasam. Now, the super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing contradictions in the Upanishad, in the Ishopanishad also there are verses which talks about contradictions, that he is far but he is very near, he cannot move, he cannot walk, but he can run faster than anyone else, so on and so forth. So similar contrast is brought on by Krishna, is spoken by Lord Krishna here about that person, about that aspect of supreme personality of Godhead, or the absolute truth that one should seek. Now that person is a source of all, original source of all senses. So all senses comes from Krishna, and but he is without senses. Why? He is materials, without material senses. He is unattached. He is unattached, although he is maintainer of all living entities. So when we maintain our family, we become attached to them. We want to know who is doing what. We are paying for their bills, then we want to know if my child is studying properly or not studying. If we are feeding them, then we want to know what they are doing in their free time. Are they serving the home? So we normally get, naturally get attached to whatever we do. When we maintain someone, we get attached to him, attached to them very naturally. But Krishna says that he is unattached, even though he maintains all living entities. Right from ant to an elephant, everyone is, food is arranged by Krishna. He transcends the mode of nature, and at the same time he is a master of all modes of nature. So that we had seen, his, how is he master? Maya adhyakshena prakriti suyate charachara. And he's saying that he's transcending, he's beyond the mode of nature, because modes of nature actually work under his supervision. So further, Krishna explains more about such person, such absolute truth, that the supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and non-moving, because he is subtle. He is beyond the power of material senses to see and know. He so in the knowledge section, where we want to know the absolute truth, he Krishna referred to this absolute truth as avigyaya. Avigyaya means unknowable by. Avigyayam is unknowable. Prabhupada translate it as unknowable. Why? Because unknowable through, by material means, by material measurement, by material instruments, it is unknowable. So because he's subtle and beyond the power of material senses to see or know, although far, far away, he is also near to all of us. Again, through contradictions, Krishna is bringing out the nature of this absolute truth, the nature of this absolute truth, and how unconceivable this is, not ordinary. So nobody should, this is a good lesson for those who think that they are soul, they are spiritual, and they will become God. Now they cannot do any one of those things. I cannot be near, if I'm here, I cannot be present everywhere else. I'm not the source of senses of all of you. I'm if I'm present inside my home, I cannot be present outside my home. So we all, and in our all forms, all, wherever, whichever stage of life we will be in, we will always have all these limitations. We will not have the power to control the other living entities. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam miva cha sthitam bhutabhrutta cha tadyeya grasishnu prabhavishnu cha. So although the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he is devourers and develops all. Another important verse, Jyotisham api tad jyotir tad jyotis tamasa paramachyate jnanam geyam jnanagamyam hridhi sarvasya vishtitam. The Jnanam Geyam Jnanagamyam Hrudi Sarvasya Vishtitam. It's a very important verse, very important sentence, very significant statement by Krishna, that he is the source of light of all luminous objects. He is beyond darkness of matter. Tama is andhakar, beyond the darkness of matter, and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. So here Krishna is making the reference that the same. Now this person is obviously not the soul. It's the whole point is to highlight this fact that there are two elements in our heart. One is individual soul, and the second one is the super soul, and that is established through this series of verses. The soul has limitations. There are no limitations to the super soul. इति क्षेत्रम तथा ज्ञानम गेयम चोक्तम समासतः मदभक्त एतद् विज्ञाय मदभाव योपपद्यते. The heart of jnana section. Now this is knowledge. This is jnana section or a Sankhya section. In the heart of that, Krishna talks about becoming, recommends that only devotees can understand it thoroughly, and thus can attain to my nature. Thus, the field of activities, the body, the knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily discussed, described by me. Samasataha. In summary, I have explained you these three things. Only my devotees, Madhabhakta etam, Madhabhakta etad Vigyaya, Madhav Bhakta Etad Vigyaya, only my devotees can understand, can know about it, and they can attain my bhava, my nature. Now, my nature can attainment of my nature was there in the 8.5th verse where Krishna says Antakalecha mam evam smarana muktva kalevaram yat prayati samad bhava yati nastyatra samshayaha. And there he will attain my nature, he will attain me, he will attain my abode, he will attain, become like me. So again, this reference we see that he will attain my bhava provided he is my bhakta. So in the heart of Sankhya section, where there is a lot of analysis going on between soul and super soul, body, the field of activity, the kshetrajna, the qualities, the gunas. Now, in the heart of that, Krishna says that, but if you are not my devotee, you will not understand any of this. So by Krishna is again highlighting a very important aspect that with our own endeavor, we cannot understand Krishna. And without Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. Without mercy of Guru and Krishna, we cannot get a seed of devotion. No, if we don't get the seed, we cannot water it with sadhana. And then the tree itself will not come. The tree doesn't come, we cannot understand Krishna. We cannot, if we don't understand Krishna, only thing for left for us to understand is matter and the senses, matter and senses and the interaction between the two. And hence we will get entangled and remain entangled in the material world. There is without any hope for us to go to spiritual world. So this is this will become the waste of human life, complete wasted human life. And Krishna does not want us to do that. Therefore, he says, Dadami buddhi yogam tvam yena mam upayantite, by which they can come to me. I will give them intelligence. Just show little inclination. I will give them intelligence. I will send devotees. I will send scriptures. I will send them, I will show them special mercy. Anukampa. I will show them anukampa, causeless mercy, by which they can start learning more about me, by which they can start practicing sadhana, by which the creeper of bhakti can grow in their heart and they can progress towards me. The knowledge, the object of knowledge and the goal of knowledge is like medical knowledge. Discuss this example. A problem, a doctor becoming pathology, MD pathology, he has all the knowledge how to analyze the blood, but he need a patient to, so that he can perform some test on him and then he can know more about the patient, that this patient has so and so problem, this patient's hemoglobin is so and so, platelets are so and so, whatever different parameters, sugar levels are so and so, thyroid is so and so, and so on and so forth. So he can put a big analysis, prepare a big analytical report of that patient once he check their sample. But that is not the goal. Object is there, but the goal is to ultimately cure the patient. Performing analysis and preparing report is a step in the goal, in attainment of the goal, but that is not the goal by itself. Goal or by itself is to attain to cure the patient by taking necessary corrective steps. When we bring that, apply that to the bhakti or the devotional service, we learn that what is knowledge. Knowledge is a differentiation between matter and spirit. Know that matter is temporary. Know that matter is not attractive. Spirit is attractive. What, when you get attracted to a person, you are actually attracted to the consciousness of that person. When that person leaves the body, you will be least interested in the dead body of that person, no matter how much you might have had liked that person. in when they were alive. Um, so that's true for everything. That's, true for our relatives, that's true for our idols, that's true for our favorite heroines and heroes that we all worship, or we all want to know more about, or we track a favorite cricketer, favorite sportsman, favorite politician. What are we attracted to? We're not attracted to their bodies. If there is same person who leaves their body, and that dead body is given to us as a gift because we like them so much during their lifetime, how long do you think we will be able to keep that body in your possession? Not even a day. You can't keep them. You just will want to get rid of that body as early as possible. So it's not that the body that you are attracted to, you are attracted to the spiritual spark inside that body. And so knowing this knowledge is required, and knowing this is knowledge section of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna bifurcates soul, the matter and spirit, and tell that spirit is important. The develop attachment to spirit, develop spiritual is eternal. You want to have eternal bliss, then get attached to the spirit instead of matter. Then knowing that your matter, your spiritual, not material, is first step towards development of thought, but that's not the only step. Anybody who remains at that level will never progress beyond thinking that they are spiritual and they will live eternally, but they will not know what to do with their life, because they will still have a life to live. So knowing that you are a atma, you are a spiritual, you have a paramatma also, who is controlling and managing the world, owning, controlling and managing the world, running this world, and for our benefit, for our enjoyment, which means we are obligated to him, and he's doing it out of a relationship. And understanding this relationship, that knowing that you are spirit, knowing that there is a supreme spirit, there is a paramatma, and there is knowing that there is a relationship between us, is object of knowledge, where we are applying our knowledge to understand more about that, the spiritual sparks, and then to fall in love with Krishna, to know that Krishna is that supreme personality of Godhead, who is who is doing all this for us, so that we can try and fulfill our desires while operating in this world, and also attain him, develop attraction towards him, fall in love with him, develop a desire to love and serve him eternally in the spiritual world. So this is ultimate goal of knowledge, and this is ultimately the goal of life as well. So we'll quickly see three more verses, and then we will go to the question answer. We'll go through a lot of purports towards the end. Beautiful purports written by Srila Prabhupada from now onwards. So Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidya Anadi Ubhava Api, Vidya Anadi Ubhava Api, Vikaranshcha Gunashchaiva Vidhi Prakritim Sambhavan. Very beautiful verse. All these verses in 13th chapter. 13th chapter per se is klishta. Klishta is jatil or complicated to little understand, comprehend. But all these verses are so beautiful, very sweetly worded, and very easy to understand by themselves. We didn't actually have to go through a lot of purports, because those verses were mostly the self-explanatory verses. So it's very simple Devanagari language use. So anybody who is fond of reading Sanskrit, probably they can follow these more easily than some of the other verses of Bhagavad Gita. So Prakritim Purusham Chaiva. So Prakriti and Purusha. Now again, Krishna is switching. The material nature and the living entities should be understood to be the beginningless, Anadi. Ubhaya Api. Ubhaya is both. Ubhava Api. So both of them are Anadi. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. We'll see what it means. So Prabhupada writes in the purport that both material nature and living entity are eternal. That is to say that they existed before the creation. The material manifestation is from the energy of the Supreme Lord, and so also are the living entities. But the living entities are of the superior nature. Now, this was explained by Krishna in the 7th chapter, 7.4 and 7.5, that Bhumiropo Nalovayuvas, and then he says Para Prakriti. Living entities are superior energies supposed to dharyate jagat. They are supposed to exploit the material energy for the purpose of living their life. So also are the living entities, but the living entities are of the superior nature. Both the living entities and material nature existed before the cosmos was manifested. Material nature was absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu, and when it was required, it was manifested by the agency of Mahatattva. Similarly, the living entities are also in him, but because they are conditioned, they are averse to serving Supreme Lord. Thus, they are not allowed to enter into the spiritual sky. But with coming forth the material nature, these living entities are again given a chance to act in the material world and prepare themselves to enter into the spiritual world. That is the mystery of this material creation. Actually, the living entity is originally the spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But due to his rebellious nature, he is conditioned within the material nature. Wow, what a beautiful purport. And again, it brings up the same point we discussed some time back, that how everything, so this material nature, Krishna says, is eternal, and so are the living entities. Now, there are material thing and material things. Material things means the building in which I'm currently sitting, the body in which I'm currently using, the laptop which I'm using, the slide changer which I'm using, the book I'm using, the pen I'm using. Now, these are things. Now, these things, they come into existence and they get destroyed after some time. The building in which I'm sitting right now comfortably and speaking with you all will get demolished maybe after 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, 50 years. And then the form will be lost. However, subs the substance, the material with which this building is constructed, that it could be the bricks, could be the cement, they will not get destroyed. They will become, probably when the building gets demolished, there is steel, there is water, there is all these elements, cement, bricks, mud, water, and steel, and all those elements will change form, will not cannot get destroyed. Just building get destroyed, building may become a rubble, it may get loaded into truck and can be thrown somewhere else, but the nature, everything remain in that rubble, in other form. It was earlier in the was having a form of a building. Now it's a heap of rubble that's lying in some place. Wherever it is thrown, it has changed form, it has not got destroyed. The cement can still be separated from there, but so but what happens, so the things are temporary, the thing is permanent. The thing, that the material substance is permanent, and that gets absorbed inside the body of a Mahavishnu as well. So when the annihilation happens, he will unmanifest this world, and that's what Prabhupada is explaining, that that will also enter the Mahavishnu. And because it is non-conscious, it doesn't, there is no change in it. When the time comes again, it will be manifested again by the Mahavishnu. But the living entities are different. Now, living entities, when they get absorbed inside Mahavishnu, they are averse to serving Supreme Lord, though that's why they are not allowed to enter into the spiritual sky. But they are, what happens with them, they stay there for some time, and then they are again given a chance to act in the material world properly, to prepare themselves to enter into the spiritual world. This is the Prabhupada called, this is the mystery of creation. Very beautifully explained, but worth reiterating the points that we had highlighted earlier. It really does not matter how these living entities or superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come into contact with the material nature. Now, sometimes, we often ask this question, why it all started, or since when it started, really. Why, if we were in the spiritual world, why at all we ended up coming into this dark material world? And what was the trigger point when we came here? Now, this question is asked many times, and again, Prabhupada is saying here that it really does not matter anymore, because now you are where you are, and now you should think where you will go from here, how you will go from here, what is required for you to go there. So that is more important than trying to dwell or trying to focus too much attention on how you landed up here. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, which nobody knows, that he says, but Supreme Personality of Godhead knows. However, how and why this actually took place. In the scriptures, the Lord says that those attracted to this by this material nature are undergoing a hard struggle for existence. Then, so Prakriti Sthani Karshati, Krishna says that Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Mana Shasthani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. With the six senses, with the six senses includes mind, they are Prakriti Sthani Karshati, struggling very hard in the material world. Prakriti Sthani Karshati, Karshati is struggling very hard. So another beautiful verse, Karya Karana Kartutve Hetuhu Prakritir Ruchate. Purushaha Sukha Dukhanam Bhuktrutve Hetu Ruchate. A beautiful verse again. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effect, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. Nature, so nature, so again, we'll bring in the analogy of a movie, that now when the nature act through three gunas. So when we go and watch a movie, when we have a develop a desire to go and watch a movie, we enter the theater and the lights around us goes off and the light on the screen comes up. The light or the whatever the scenes that we see on the screen are predominantly formed by three colors, the three basic colors, whatever some says it is red, blue, yellow, or whatever it is, and all other colors are formed by different combination of these three colors, basic colors. So similarly, we have three gunas. We have this screen of the theater is like material world, and whatever will come up on those on that screen will be governed by those three gunas. Three gunas are three modes of material nature. The now whatever experiences that we get, being be that of happiness or suffering, are primarily because of our desire to continue to watch a movie. Had we had no desire to go enter the theater and watch this movie, we would not have experienced neither happiness nor distress. So the the nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effect, whereas the living entity is the cause of various suffering and enjoyment in this world. So why there is suffering? Because living entity wants to the cause is living entity. Cause is not the modes of material nature. The If you do not enter the theater and the show happens, the screen is illuminated, the three colors are thrown, and the three colors combine, form images, form some scenes, and some people are laughing, some people are getting scared, some people are crying, and so on and so forth. So but you are not enter the team, you are not enter the theater. Now, even though the three modes are operating functional there, because you have never entered the theater, you are neither suffering, neither you are enjoying, or you are away from that suffering and enjoyment. Whatever is happening inside the theater, you are not party to it. Now, Because if you have a desire and you end up going there, then you are subjected to that suffering. So Prabhupada will equate this with 84 lakh species, our desire to accept different bodies. Now, it's not as simple as entering a theater and enjoying a comedy movie. Prabhupada, now this purport will make that very clear, that there are 84 lakh different species of life, and these varieties are creations of material nature. So assume those to be 84 lakh color combinations that are thrown on the screen by the theater, by the projector. Now they arise from different sensual pleasures of the living entity who thus desires to live in this body or that body. When he is put into different bodies, he enjoy different kind of happiness and distress. His material happiness and distress are due to his body, not due to himself as he is. Now as he doesn't even have to bother to enter the theater. He is quite all right outside the theater also, but because of his desire to enter the theater, he then has loses his choice and is forced to accept whatever is thrown at him based on his own desires in his original state. But what was his original state, which is like before entering the theater? uh, in his original state, there is no doubt of enjoyment there. Therefore, that is his real state. Suppose an entity is put into the body of a dog. As soon as he is put into the body of a dog, he must act like a dog. He cannot act otherwise. He cannot think that my last body I was Mandar Thate. I was a I used to have a own a home. I used to have a bank account. I had a PAN number. I had Aadhaar card. Why am I given this inferior body? I just doesn't work like that. He will not think like that. He will think immediately like a dog. He will be guided by the super soul to act like a dog. He will be trained by the super soul to act like a god dog. He cannot act even like a cat. He will bark. And if the living entity is put into body of a hog, then he is forced to eat stool and act like a hog. And now in the human body, you will hate stool, you will flush it the moment you will sight it, or you will go away from it. But a hog will go towards it. He will lick his mouth, mouth will water by seeing stool. Now that is happens under the training given by super soul. That super soul will train the soul to act in that way, because now he is in hog's body. And this is the law of nature. But in all circumstances, the super soul is within the individual soul, because the super soul is the guide, he is the trainer, and he is also the sakshi, that he is the witness that this soul is undergoing this suffering, this karma. He's burning his karma. Somebody needs to be there to monitor this, and Krishna kindly agrees to act and become a sakshi, or become a witness to all that mess that we create for ourselves and go through. The Supreme Lord is so kind upon the living entity that he always accompanies the individual soul in and in all circumstances is present as the super soul and or Paramatma. Last two verses, very important verse. Purushaha prakriti stato he bhungte prakriti jan gunat karanam guna sangosya sad asad yonim janmasu. Sat asat yoni janmasu karanam gunasangasya sad asad yoni janmasu. So prakritehe purushah prakriti stito hi. Purushah prakriti stito hi. The Purusha, the living entity, and Prakriti in the material world, material nature, does follow the way of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meet with good and evil amongst various species. Now, this is the transmigration. This is how we get um, Sat Asad. Sat Asad is translated by in the good and bad, Yoni, Janmasu. Sat Asad, Yoni, Janmasu. We take birth in different species of life. Now, what is the driver that is explained here? That why we what causes our birth to happen in another uni is because of this. Now, this verse is very important for an understanding of how the living entities transmigrate from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter that living entity is transmigrating from one body to another just as one changes dress. The 2.23rd verse, where Krishna says that it's not dehinos minyatha dehe, yeah, but some other verse. So just like we change garment, vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya tatha sharirani navani, yeah, vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grahyanti nauroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnya anyani sayanti navani dehi. So just like how we change dress, similarly we change body at when it becomes useless, old and useless, old and useless, or old or useless. It could be young, but when it develop vikar, it becomes useless. The soul leaves the body, even though the bodily age could be young. So that living entity is transmigrating from one body to another, just like one changes dress. This change of dress is due to his attachment to the material existence. Now, the question can be how we select our dress. Now that is explained here. As long as he is captivated by this false manifestation, he has to continue transmigrating from one body to another body. Due to his desire to lord it over material nature, he is put into such undesirable circumstances. It is due to the association with different modes of nature. Why it happens? Because of the association of different modes of nature. One has to rise, therefore, above these three modes of material nature and become situated in the transcendental position that is called Krishna consciousness. Unless one is situated in Krishna consciousness, his material consciousness will oblige him to transfer from one body to another because he has material desires. Since time immemorial. Since when? Since time immemorial. But he has to change that conception. That change can be effected only by hearing from authoritative sources. The best example is here. Arjuna is hearing the science of God from Krishna. The living entity, if he submit to his hearing process, will lose his long cherished desire to dominate material nature, and gradually and proportionately, as he reduces his long desire to dominate, he comes to enjoy spiritual nature happiness. In the Vedic mantra, it is said that as he becomes learned in the association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he proportionately relishes his eternal blissful life. A lot of information, lot to unpack from here. It talks about the transmigration, and the reason for that. The reason for that is our attachment to our desires, basically our desires to enjoy matter, our desire to gain happiness by enjoying matter, and in order to make sure that we get our enjoyment in an uninterrupted way, we want to control matter, we want control over matter. So that is the root cause of problem, and this is how it all started. Ichha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata. This is how we entered the theater, and once we enter the theater, we are subjected to various drives, whatever the theater, whatever the desires that we develop. And those desires are also dynamic, because if we get a lower desire and that gets fulfilled, we get even lower desire, we can get even lower desire. It doesn't happen the other way around. The going down is natural, rising up is requires effort. Just like how if I drop this instrument, it will fall down. I don't have to work hard to make it fall down. I just have to drop it and it will go down. So going down is natural for matter. This is made up of matter. This slide changer is made up of matter. So if I drop it from here, it will fall down on the table, or if I drop it here, it will fall down on the ground. So falling, going down is very natural to a soul. So if a lower desire get fulfilled, another lower desire can arise, another lower desire can arise, and you can keep going low and low and low. Whereas rising above requires effort, requires dedication, requires बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती है to rise above. For a plane to fly at 35,000 feet above sea level requires it to burn a lot of fuel, requires superior machinery. It just can't go upwards. So another example is, the more you gradually and proportionately, the sky is unlimited. Of aeroplane with superior mechanism can fly at 35,000 feet above sea level, but a small parrot, may fly at maybe 10 feet above 10 feet above the ground, or 15 feet above the ground, 50 feet above the ground. A crow may fly, even less than that. A small bird uh, can fly. So, or a eagle can fly at much higher heights above from the ground, and airplane can fly at even much higher height than the ground. So the sky is unlimited, open to everyone, but each one will be able to fly as per their capacity. Similarly, when we want to take up to the spiritual learnings, the sky is the limit. We can go to any lane, but we will go as high as we can as per our capacity and as per our faith. So gradually and proportionately, and as much as we endeavor in learning spiritualities, learning the spiritual consciousness, learning about Krishna, in the same proportionately we will relish his eternal blissful life. And again here, the more we relish eternal spiritual bliss while in the current body, more we will develop a desire to develop to experience that again, and that can also act as a catalyst, that can give us impetus to become more serious in bhakti also. So this will lead us gradually to the higher, to raise our consciousness to the higher and higher grounds, which otherwise will go naturally. If you leave it, it will go down and down and down. Last verse for today is upadrashta anumantacha bharta bhukta maheshwarah paramatmeti chapyukto paramatmeti chapya ukto dehesmin purusha paraha dehesmin purusha paraha. Dehesmin was, we've seen this earlier in 13th verse of second chapter, dehinosmin yatha dehe. So similar use of word, that embodied, and there the dehesmin means embodied, that one who is inside the body, one who has acquired the body. In this body, dehe, in this body, asmin, this. So the super soul which is inside the body. Now this super soul which is inside the body is not the desirer. What is he doing? He is overseer and permitter. He is He's not the one who is desiring us a dog's body. He is not the one who is who is helping us go to a dog's body, from human body to descend to a dog's body. He is not the one who is causing us commit sinful actions, even go below within human yoni also, human species also. There are 4 lakhs types. So there are higher types and there are lower types. Within 4 lakh also, there are various varieties of human bodies that can be tested. And so within human form also, there are 4 lakh species. So going down to the lower species, or going finally to the animal species, or a bird species, or an insect species, or a tree species, plant species, is not because of the super souls. It's not because of the mistakes made by super soul. That is Paramatma, is identified here as a Paramatma. Krishna says that Paramatma, who is also available, is has two roles basically. Has is a Upadrashta, he's overseer, and Anumanta, he's a permitter. But one who is the Lord of the Supreme Proprietor and who exists and the overseer and permitter. So let's see the purport. Uh, in this verse, it is stated that the super soul who is always with the individual soul is the representation of the Supreme Lord. He is not the ordinary living entity. So here Krishna has not identified him as me, but he is making a reference as if he is doing it to a third person. That super soul is Upadrashta, that super soul is Anumanta, permitter, overseer. Later in the 15th verse of 15th chapter, Krishna identify that permit, that is me alone, and I am that super soul. So he connects the dot then, but here now right now he is giving a third party reference as if he is the overseer and he is the permitter. Now his representation from Supreme Lord Prabhupada also continues with the same flow. He is not ordinary living entity. To clarify this, the Lord says that he is represented as the Paramatma in every body. He is different from the individual soul. He is para or transcendental. The individual soul enjoys the activities of particular field, but the super soul is present not as a finite, not as a small. Finite means small enjoyer. He doesn't try to enjoy along with the soul. While the soul is trying to enjoy, super soul is witnessing. He's witnessing and he's not taking part in the bodily activities. He's present, but he is indifferent. But the witness or the overseer, permitter, the and supreme enjoyer, but he's he doesn't have to be he when the soul try to enjoy using senses a particular body, using a particular body and a particular senses given in that body, the super soul is not interested, because super soul is a supreme enjoyer. He's not dependent on the soul or the activities of the body for his enjoyment. He is enjoying otherwise also. He's exists inside this body, he exists outside this in this universe, and he exists outside this universe, in Golok planet where he is eternally enjoying. So he is least interested in this enjoyment which the soul is trying to gain, while in the hog's body, while in the dog's body, while in the human body, while trying to have sex, while trying to eat meat, while trying to kill people for money, while doing all kind of sinful activities from which he hoped to get some money, get some pleasure, get some happiness, and he want to collect more so that that happiness can become uninterrupted happiness. रुकावट के लिए खेद नहीं होना चाहिए. Earlier in the Doordarshan times, when we had only Doordarshan as a channel, TV channel, and then a lot of time that there used to be some problem at the transmission center, and then they used to put up a banner called "रुकावट के लिए खेद है," sorry for interruption. And a soul does not want that such situation to arise where his enjoyments are interrupted. If you're playing a movie and suddenly some technical problem happens in the TV center, then they will put up this kind of a board that "रुकावट के लिए खेद है." Now, a soul obviously doesn't want any interruption. So what he will do, he will ensure that he collect more and more and more so that he can continue to enjoy uninterruptedly. So that's why the lording desire over material nature also comes in, because by lording one doesn't become happy, but one can ensure uninterrupted happiness by making sure that you have enough resources at your disposal. So this is and that becomes the root cause of our bondage in the material world. So but the super soul is not dependent on this kind of enjoyment. He's not interested in this enjoyment. Because why? Because he is the ultimate supreme enjoyer, and his name is Paramatma. Krishna, not Atma. He is transcendental. Parama Atma. Para is transcendental. He's Paramatma. The Lord is always eager to take him back to the spiritual energy. But due to his minute independence, the individual entity is continually rejecting the association of spiritual light. This misuse of independence is the cause of his material strife in the conditioned nature. The misuse of independence. What is the independence? Independence is Krishna does not. Krishna wants us to choose him as the object of affection. Krishna does not want to force himself as object of affection to his to all the spiritual souls. So, given a choice, if I can, the moment I know I can choose Krishna and I can also choose something else other than Krishna, I start experimenting. I start choosing other things over Krishna, and then I that caused me suffering. That caused me can give me some pleasure, but grossly it caused me a lot of suffering, and also the transmigration, because my current body has a limited time. And after this, either I'll have to take another human body based on my desires and accumulated fruits, or I will either have to take a lower body or a higher type of body, but I will still get a body. I will still start my journey again. And that's a transmigration that will happen from one body to another, to another, to another. It either staying at the same level, or going upwards or going downwards. Going downwards means you can go to the lower level, lower species also. And Krishna is witnessing, and he's permitting to the extent it is available based on the karma. Krishna will allow. So Krishna will not recommend you to rob a bank, but if your if your karma allows you to become rich for some brief time, Krishna will permit, and then your bank robbery can become successful. Now, bank robbery is not prescribed duty on Bhagavad Gita, but that is what you desired. And Krishna permitted that based on your available karma, and he's overseeing how you are robbing a bank, and you become successful for some time, and then you get caught and go to jail, because the moment your possession, the whatever the time period for which you were to become rich, that ends, you get caught by police and go to jail, and then again your entire wealth is taken back. So all the plans that you would have made by bagging rom by by robbing bank, I will become rich, and then I will do this, I will do that, I will go here, I will eat this, I will enjoy with this person, and so on and so forth. All those plans are busted, and then you land up yourself into jail, and that's it. The Krishna allowed you to do wrong also, based on your desire. So it's not that he desired you to rob a bank, it's you desired to do that, and he allowed it to the extent it was permissible under the law of karma, which is his own law. So because of this minute independence, the misuse of independence is the cause of material strife in the conditioned nature. The Lord therefore is always giving instructions from within and from without. Very important. The Lord is giving instructions from within and without. Without means he gives instruction from outside. Outside, he has given spoken Bhagavad Gita, which is documented by Srila Vyasdev and commented by Srila Prabhupada, which has remained unchanged for 5,000 years. The Bhagavad Gita contains all the knowledge, and for everyone, for a sentimental person, for an analytical person, for an intelligent person, for a yogi who want to practice sadhana, for everyone, or for somebody who has no faith in God, who is atheist. So everyone can take up Bhagavad Gita and learn something from it, and eventually can come to a proper conclusion that they can progress towards Krishna. So those instructions are important, and those instructions are given. Prabhupada mentions that as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Those instructions, he gives instruction as stated in Bhagavad Gita. And how he acts from within? From within, he tries to convince the living entity that his activities in the material field are not conducive for real happiness. So every time uh, we every time we hear a voice that is asking us to do something wrong, so that you can get some pleasure. There is also another voice that we hear. We often neglect that voice, and that yeah, voice is that of Krishna. That don't do it. Just don't do it. Think again. It has you have done this earlier, and it has resulted in misery. It will lead to loss. It's not only financial loss, it will lead to spirituality, loss of spiritual credits. It will lead to contamination of consciousness. It will degrade your consciousness. It will give rise to more lower desires. If this gets fulfilled, you will get more desires, more, and those will be further lower desires. So that second voice which is often heard is that of Krishna. Krishna Prabhupada says that he's trying to convince us, but because we place more emphasis, we feed this dog bit more, he's barking more, our mind bark in a louder voice, and soul we have not fed him, so his voice is very weak. uh, and then we don't hear that voice. Even if we hear it, at times we ignore it. And then we turn to our mind and we try and engage ourselves in fulfilling our rest of the desires, and try and become happy. So but Krishna is trying to convince us that this is not going to give you real happiness. Just give it up and turn your faith towards me, then you will be happy, Krishna is saying. But we often don't listen to him. So and then that's what we have been doing from time immemorial, and that's what we can stop doing from now onwards. But because having learned how it happens, why it happens, again if we repeat the same old errors that we were doing, that will be most unfortunate. And hence we should we should we should do the following in the summary of what we discussed today. The right knowledge is to know who we are, why we are suffering in different bodies, who is controlling material nature and our transmigration in different bodies, what is our relationship with him, and how we can turn ourselves towards him. And who is he, who is his, learn about more about him, and have a relationship, more about him, learn more about him from the revealed scriptures, and then follow the instructions. Once you get sufficient faith, with sufficient knowledge and sufficient faith, follow instructions that are given in Bhagavad Gita. And by performing bhakti, by performing devotional service only, one can rise above the modes. We need in the 7th chapter, 14th verse, the famous verse where Krishna says that mama maya duratvaya, that daiviya esha gunamayi mama maya duratvaya, that maya which is bewildering you all is mine, is mama maya duratvaya, and it's very difficult to overcome. But if you can surrender to me, mayam etam tarantite. Taranti is like a swim across or float across. That taranti can happen only if you can surrender to me, because she is my Maya. She works under my supervision. So that is the instruction, that if we want to rise above the modes, otherwise, as explained, we are governed by modes. If we don't bring Krishna into our life, if we don't bring devotees into our life, if we don't bring Bhagavad Gita into our life, apart from that, our life is programmed. We are given, we do have choices, but we have very minute choices. And modes in which we act, under whose influence we are acting, we will take decisions accordingly. If we are in sattva guna, we may do something good. If we are in rajo guna, tamo guna, we may do something that can be harmful for others. um, could be more beneficial to us but could be harmful for someone else, and different ways in which we will act, and that is a trigger. Because by our choice, we got ourselves into inside a theater. And if we choose to remain in theater, then what happens from then onwards is something where we have very, very little control over. But we have a choice to get up and get out of the theater. and thereby end this miserable experience, is end the whole miserable experience where sometimes we were happy, but most of the times we were suffering. We were not suffering only because of the scenes on the screen, but we are also undergoing changes at a bodily level. And then that makes a possibility of coming back to Krishna consciousness weaker and weaker. More we go down, it becomes difficult for us to come back. So by following instructions in Bhagavad Gita and by performing devotional service only, one can rise above the three modes. Otherwise, it is impossible. By our own endeavor, it is impossible. But there are no other means which can help us rise above the modes. And then what we have to do, then we have a chance to experience spiritual happiness. How much? In proportionate to whatever faith that we keep in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and we practice actual instructions of Bhagavad Gita. In that proportionate, we get happiness, we get to experience spiritual happiness. And by experiencing that spiritual happiness while acting in the material world, we can develop a desire to go back to spiritual world, and that desire can take us to the spiritual world, because with this desire we will endeavor more, we will try more, we will take more shelter of Krishna, we will surrender more to Krishna, and then we will remember Krishna more. And that we will do during our lifetime and also at the end of our lifetime. Thereby we will end up going to the spiritual world, we will attain Krishna. So to facility for hearing and chanting, hearing from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita comes in the evening 8:30 to 9:15, and the chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra comes in the morning 4:45 a.m. till 7:30. We'll open up for question answers. Was a little technical sessions, but hope all of you probably could gather something out of it. Also, I request all of you to maintain these slides, download these slides, keep them at your in your collection. They can be handy. If you have any doubts, you can refer to those slides, or you can refer to me. Happy to try and answer all the questions that you all might have.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. So,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Keshav, Hare Krishna, Vikas Roji. Dandavat Pranam.
So actually, I mean, in this chapter, actually, Srila Prabhupada says that this chapter must be learned from a spiritual master. This is because, as you yourself explained, that this is a bit technical kind of chapter to be learned, and that is what it is. Sometimes it gives some kind of understanding complexity. When it was, at least I can talk about myself, that when I read it, it gave some kind of complexity in 2-3 verses. So they were going bit deeper, and you in this presentation has just made it so simple that it is very much easy to understand that ultimate focus is to be shifted towards Krishna. That though we are this body, but the knower and the super knower is also with us. So it is better to go upward and not to go downward to know this body or exploit this body rather more and more. But it is always better to engage this body in the service of the super knower or the super soul, who is the Paramatma Krishna himself. And it was so easy, means the complexities were made so simple by your this lecture, that it was very easy to understand that. And that is what is the use, that is the benefit of association of devotee, and that is what how we can understand the things as it is, and our perception does not deviate from what is the absolute truth. So thank you very much for making us understand that, Guruji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Guruji. Just one simple query was that uh, how is it possible to more intensely focus on that whatever 5% free will Krishna has given to us, how to devote it uh, to the service of Krishna only, and how to make our mind understand that this 5% free will is to be used by Krishna only, means whatever he directs, and let's just follow, and let me not interfere with my 5% free will in my life also. So
Yeah.
how we can make this perception better, Prabhuji?
Yeah, very simple.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna. So yesterday, I think Sitaram Prabhu gave that answer very nicely, that by remaining as an association of devotees and making ourselves subordinate to them and accepting more services from them, you give away this 5% also. So then nothing will be left with you. So that's the best way, because devotees will then engage you in various activities of Krishna consciousness, promoting Krishna consciousness, and so by doing this, this whatever 5% is there is can also be surrendered. But again, that can also be a gradual shift. It need not be a sudden shift because if it has to be sustainable shift, if and when it happens. So that's a secret, in our current stage, in our current state, we can give ourselves subordinate to the senior devotees, to the senior Vaishnavas, and the one, because one way of easy way of giving this free will is or reducing the possibility of we engaging in other activities is by accepting services. But when we actually perform services, one, they are very purifying. Be it any service, it's very purifying, very where you actually struggle to do something for Krishna. Now that itself is a purifying factor. And if whatever success you give it to the credit goes to the your spiritual master, spiritual guide, and whatever mistakes happen, that debit comes to you. So it makes you very humble. So that it's very purifying and very quick way of purifying ourselves by acceptance of services. So that's what I'll also recommend, that in our current state, in our current stage, we should be open to perform more something for Krishna, do something for Krishna. We may not become, take Brahman initiation and become pujari of Krishna, or we need not really go out like how Atul Krishna Prabhu describes, that they used to do Sankirtan all 12 months. Every day they used to go out, and at night they used to come back. Now, that they did in those times. Today, in our current state, our current stage, in our current varnashram position, wherever we are, that might not be possible. But it doesn't mean that nothing is possible. So, which means there could still be something possible, which wherein we could get ourselves engaged in the services, and that can be a way in which we can surrender our free will to our superiors. That's a nice way of doing it.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the elaboration of it. Yes, though Sitaram Prabhuji also covered it grossly, but that was the remembrance of Krishna. Well, thank you very much, Prabhuji, the elaborate answer. Hare
Thank you
Krishna,
so
Dandavat
much.
Pranam.
Hare Krishna. So Sri Keshav, the red line, I saw that. I kept ignoring it because it didn't increase the screen. So I will go and erase it. Probably somebody just scribbled something on the screen. Sorry about that. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. If there are any questions, I'm just checking the chat box. There are no questions.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Just wanted to say thank you for elaborate explanation of the things, and slowly we are getting some inclination, some progress towards the ultimate truth. So thank you so much for keep us updating and keep us in giving every day some dose in the form of some messages or some audio or some other things. So really thank you too for helping us to progress on the path. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Vinod Prabhu. There are no questions. We can end today's session. Just stop the recording.